Every vault has its sonnet. What's yours?
Let me not to the marriage of true minds admit impediment.
When 40 winters shall besiege thy brow,
Music to hear. Why hear'st thou music sadly?
Oh, that record could with a backward look.
Like as the waves make toward the pebbled shore.
Thus have I had thee as a dream doth flatter. In sleep a king, but waking no much matter. So what are you waiting for?
Good afternoon, Wastelanders. My name is Eric Smalls, Director of the Wasteland Theatre Company. On behalf of our company, I welcome you to the Vaults Theatre and our second Shakespearean Sonnet Festival live in the Wasteland. Our Sonnet Festival welcomes readers on 3 different stages here in the Wasteland. It is an unprecedented collaboration between theater hosts, readers, Wastelanders, and the use of our Vault Tech Pip-Boy technology to view these stages virtually across space. I want to begin by acknowledging our theater hosts, Jessica Stauffj and HamletSandwich, who have both dedicated countless hours to make this Sonnet Festival possible. And of course, our friends at the 50 Responders for helping produce, record, and provide security for our festival. And the United Wastelanders Network for the broadcast on your Pip-Boys. This Sonnet Festival celebrates the beauty, wonder, darkness, and love found within Shakespeare's sonnets. But our Sonnet Festival also explores how the works of Shakespeare relate to our present society here in the post-nuclear apocalyptic world. Shakespeare wrote for us, for all of us. Even 600 years after his death, his words live on. You will find the themes: immortality, age, decay, death, and love lost throughout the sonnets. And these are states we know too well. The world Shakespeare knew is not the same as the one that we live in today, but his words ring true through the dust and fallout of our time. Our Sonnet Festival today explores the stories found in the dozens of vaults strewn throughout America. For those who are unfamiliar with the vaults, prior to the Great Nuclear War of 2077, Vault Tech opened vaults or bomb shelter complexes in nearly every region of America. These vaults were supposed to be a refuge for select members of society to hide when the atomic bombs dropped. But the reality was, many of these vaults were used for social experiments on the vault dwellers inside in a sick program designed by Vault Tech to exploit the moment to test the human condition. Every vault has a number. And for those unfamiliar with Shakespeare's sonnets, each one of his 154 sonnets also has a number. We asked our sonnet readers to pick a vault number, and they were then assigned their corresponding sonnet number. Readers were asked to explore the stories from the vaults and find a connection between those stories and the sonnet linked to their vault. As you will see, these sonnets, told from the perspective of each vault, opens an entire new way of seeing both the sonnet and our lives here in the Wasteland. Now, before we get into the sonnets, I have a few housekeeping items and a brief overview of how this festival will flow today. First, please be sure to silence yourselves until it is your time to speak. Members of the in-theater audience who are not reading should also be silent throughout. Please do not draw your weapon unless absolutely necessary for the preservation of your own life. Here at the Vaults Theater, we do have a security officer posted outside in case of any infringing super mutants or rad rats or whatever it may be. Our Sonnet Festival begins here in the Vaults Theater. Then it will move to the Riverside Theater, and then finally to the Atomic Theater. Each host will read their own sonnets, and then they will call up each reader according to their vault and sonnet number in numerical order. While sonnets are being read, we ask that those in theaters who are waiting their turn to tune into their pit-boards to watch the other theaters' sonnet readings. You can access that broadcast on your pit-board by logging into a Twitchy thing on the United Wastelanders Network. The most important thing, of course, is to have fun. The Wasteland Theatre Company is a collective of friends, strangers, and those who share our passion for community. Like Shakespeare's sonnets, our theatre company is for everyone. Now, I will begin by reading our first sonnet, Sonnet 19. I will be reading it from the perspective of a resident of Vault 19. Vault 19 was an experiment by Vault Tech to induce paranoia through non-chemical and non-violent means. They used mind tricks, isolation, deformed practices that would drive a man mad. They pit Vault Dweller against Vault Dweller, creating conspiracies that spiraled out of control and turned into raw violence. Imagine you are stuck in a room with clocks ticking around your head. You lose all sense of yourself, of where you are and what day it is. That ticking and talking loses its meaning for you, and you start assigning your own cause to those ticks and talks. Penetrate your ears and enter your mind, and you shout at those ticks and talks, that now perverse concept of time, devouring time. Blunt thou the lion's paws, and make the earth devour her own sweet brood. Pluck the keen teeth from the fierce tiger's jaws, and burn the long-lived phoenix in her blood. Make glad and sorry seasons as thou fleetest, and do whatever thou wilt, on swift-footed time, to the wide world and all her fading sweets. But I forbid thee one most heinous crime. O carve not with thy hours my love's fair brow, nor draw no lines there with thine antique pen. A hymn in thy course untainted do allow for beauty's pattern to succeed in men. Yet do thy worst, old time, despite thy wrong. My love shall in my verse ever live young. Sonnet 19. Our next sonnet reader is TheRevienne, also known as Catherine Stone, reading Sonnet 11. You may come on up to the stage as you're ready. And remember to unsilence yourself.
Hello? My name is Catherine Stone. I lived in Vault 11 with my husband Nathan, and I can say in hindsight that our vault was a social experiment. Each year since I was a little girl, the other residents would choose someone to become the new overseer and be sacrificed so that we all could live. My mama told me that it was the original overseer who was the first sacrifice, because they were the only one who knew that the other dwellers would be sacrificed. Groups formed, voting and endorsing anyone they saw fit to their agenda as a new overseer. As the number of dwellers started to go down, the group leaders would become more and more despicable. Roy Gottlieb, leader of the Justice Bloc, threatened my Nathan and told me if I didn't perform sexual acts for him, he would ensure my husband got voted as the new overseer. I did as I was told, but they murdered him anyway. So I murdered them, one by 1. Became the next overseer, and enacted Overseer's Order 745 to ensure a fair way to select the next sacrifice, but also to ensure the longevity of the vault. The vaulters were mad, and it was a bloodbath. I survived, though. They didn't want the outside world to know what we did, so they were going to kill themselves. But in doing so, they fulfilled the experiment. If we had just refused at the start, and not put the value of one life over another, we would have been free to leave. The 5 could have left, but they were so guilt-ridden, they went through with our plan anyway. When I was a girl, I'd go down to the library in the vault and look at the books. I picked up one with my man with a funny name, Shakespeare, and it was full of funny little poems. Sonnets, he called them. There was one, Sonnet 11. Funnily enough, reminded me of our own little vault 11. There was a man, a beautiful man, a fair youth. He wanted to carry on his beauty. So, he wanted to lay with a woman. Kind of what our vault was supposed to be, huh? Or at least, what I tried to do. The other 5? They didn't want any of the truth to come out. They didn't want their story to continue. Funny how that worked out, ain't it? You want to hear it, though? As fast as thou shalt wane, so fast thou growest. In one of thine, from that which thou departest, and that fresh blood which youngly thou bestowest, thou mayst call thine when thou from youth convertest. Herein lies wisdom, beauty, and increase. Without this, folly, age, and cold decay. If all were minded so, the times should cease, and 60 years would make the world away. Let those whom nature hath not made for store, harsh, featureless, and rude, barrenly perish. Look whom she best endowed, she gave the more, which bounteous gift thou shouldst in bounty cherish. She carved thee for her seal, and meant that thereby thou shouldst print more, not let that copy die. Sonnet 11.
Thank you very much for that most powerful sonnet, for connecting it so well to the stories within the vault. I do want to remind everybody in the theater audiences that if your legs fall asleep, you should shuffle your toes a little bit, move around just a little bit so you don't, your legs don't fall asleep. It's very uncomfortable. Our next sonnet reader will be Sonnet 15. We welcome TheSkald from the 50 new responders, reading as a vault dweller of Vault 15. Come on up on the stage and read your sonnet.
Vault 15. We were chosen because of our extreme differences in thought and belief, in perception and faith, in hope and despair. The study was one of time and its influence upon such a radically diverse group. They cared not if we survived or failed. When the seal was broken, the deep schisms of existence manifested in an explosive way. Tribal in our intent, we parted ways into groups, separate of goals and desires. Time, it seemed, had not provided a path toward cooperation. Instead, much as this sonnet discusses, time is forever linked to brief flickers of growth, but always ending in decay. Perfection is but a moment, and perhaps it was when we considered the possibility of a future with the Gek, and what we might have accomplished in our beautiful youth. But no, much like the stage mentioned in this sonnet, it was all an illusion. Time has withered it all away. Sonnet 15. When I consider everything that grows, holds in perfection but a little moment, that this huge stage presenteth naught but shows whereon the stars and secret influence comment. When I perceive that men as plants increase, cheered and checked even by the selfsame sky, vaunt in their youthful sap, at height decrease, and wear their brave state out of memory. Then the conceit of this inconstant stay sets you most rich in youth before my sight, where wasteful time debateth with decay, to change your day of youth to sullied night, and all in war with time for love of you, as he takes from you, I engraft you new.
Well, thank you very much for that. I love the tone of your voice. It's very captivating. I want to invite our next sonnet. Will be sonnet number 75, read by Stauffj. Doctor, it appears. Come on up to the stage and read your sonnet.
Alt 75. What is there not to see but progress? The evolution of scientific genius, bottled into one small. Genetic manipulation, execution, and feats minds of the norm could never dream of. Vault 75 brought the greatest minds of genetic power together to see what perfection we could bring to the human body. Although setbacks happened and mistakes were made, the idea of genetic purity became an almost dream to the scientists. They craved it, and they were willing to go to any lengths to achieve it, no matter how gruesome or brutal they seemed. They would do anything. Now, I will read from Sonnet 75. So, are you to my thoughts as food is to life, or as sweet seasoned showers are to the ground? And for the peace of you I hold such strife, as twixt a miser and wealth is now proud as a joyer and famine. Doubting and flinching age will steal his treasure, now counting best to be with you alone. Then, battered than the world may see my pleasure, sometime all full with feasting on your sight, by and by starving for a look, possessing, pursuing no delight, save what is had, or must from you be took. Thus do I pine and surfeit day by day, or glutton on all, or all away.
All right. Thank you for that excellent reading, masterfully and quite chillingly done, I must say. We will invite our next sonnet, which will be sonnet 81, read by SpookyFuneral, aka Perpetual Horrors. He's our theater company's own lighting technician who is bravely reading a sonnet today. Why don't you come on up, brother?
This is Sonnet 81, where the poet, imagining a future in which both he and the beloved are dead, sees himself as being completely forgotten, while the beloved will forever be remembered because of the poet's verse. For I shall live your epitaph to make, for you survive when I in earth am rotten. From hence, your memory death cannot take, although in me each part will be forgotten. Your name from hence immortal life shall have, though I, once gone, to all the world must die. The earth can yield me but a common grave, when you entombed in men's eyes shall lie. Your monument shall be my gentle verse, which eyes not yet created shall overread. And tongues to your being shall rehearse, when all the breathers of this world are dead. You still shall live, such virtue hath my pen, where breath most breathes, even in the mouths of men. Sonnet 81. Thank you.
Oh, I know, those nerves really kicked in there, but that was really well done. Thank you so much for that sonnet. We'll have someone clean up the stage following that. The joke's on you, though. You're our lighting tech and also stage technician, so you'll be cleaning that up after the show, my friend. Well done. Our last sonnet before we move to the Riverside Theatre, hosted by Jessica Starr, will be Sonnet 94, read by GamerGrl, a veteran of our Sonnet Festival and actually an actor in our full theatrical productions. She was in the Scottish play as well as Romeo and Juliet, and will be featured in our upcoming performance of A Midsummer Night's Dream. I'll welcome you up to read your sonnet.
Thank you. I'm going to choose to read my sonnet and then give you the background. Sonnet 94. They that have the power to hurt and will do none, that do not do the thing they most do show, who, moving others as themselves a stone, unmoved, cold, and to temptation slow, they rightly do inherit heaven's graces, and husband nature's riches from expense. They are the lords and owners of their faces, others but stewards of their excellence. The summer's flower to the summer sweet, though to itself it only live and die. But if that flower with base infection meet, the basest weed outbraves dignity. For sweetest things turn sourest by their deeds. Lilies that fester smell far worse than weeds. Vault 94 was designed to test the adaptability of non-violent ideological groups, communal groups, when presented with post-apocalyptic societies. Our core values consisted of faith, nonviolence, communal life, and ecological harmony. We all belong to an agricultural religious community, and we're expected to reinforce our values during the shelter period of 1 year. In place of an overseer, our vault was governed by a council system, where our residents could participate in voting for the community. Though we were given an abundance of high-value resources, we were not provided with any weapons, armor, or defenses. And when the vault doors opened, we were encouraged to open our vault to other survivors, who Vault Tech knew would likely be armored and desperate. With our resources and their weapons, Vault Tech knew we didn't stand a chance, and we would either have to adapt our beliefs quickly, their beliefs, or likely all die, which is what ended up happening. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much. Your, again, delivery was captivating. I do encourage everyone to tune in to our upcoming performance of Midsummer Night's Dream in October to see GamerGrl on stage again. You can expect more of that brilliant Shakespeare coming from GamerGrl. We will now turn to the Riverside Theatre and host Jessica Starr. Now, it may take a moment for your Pip Boys to register the frequency, so please be patient, and I'll send it over to you, Jessica.
yeah.
Thank you, Eric. As director of the Wasteland Theatre Company, it's been such a pleasure to work with you. I must say, all your readers at the Vaults Theatre delivered such wonderful readings of their sonnets, and they do us all credit. I'm glad we could follow along on our Pip-Boys, hearing each interpretation and what it means to them. I'd like to welcome you all to the Riverside Theatre, built to be open to the wasteland in which we reside and subject to her temperaments. You have not lived till you've seen the tempest in a radstorm, but I digress. This venue is so named because it's built into the pond and grounds of the Riverside Manor. That name has always been something of a mystery, being a lakeside home and not along a river. But it has occurred to me that perhaps it is named after a hero of mine, Shannon Rivers, who once resided here and whose presence can be felt to this day. That's why I built our theater in this location, and though the full origin of the name, like much of the knowledge of our forebears, is fading into time, still, some of that old world remains, not least of which are the beautiful and powerful words of Shakespeare, whose sonnets we are celebrating today. For my reading, I've chosen Sonnet 34. This sonnet is about small betrayals, or perhaps large. I'm put in mind of the life Vault-Tec promised us. Better living underground, and a better world we could rebuild. However, as you all know, many vaults did not allow that. From what I have heard through old records, Vault 34 was built to glorify instruments of destruction, overpopulated and overstocked like a bomb waiting to explode. How can they have better life underground when they are taught to hold weapons of death above all else? So I am reading from the perspective of a woman who's discovered Vault-Tec's treachery too late, yet still takes solace in the shelter and her loved ones who could not have otherwise survived. Why didst thou promise such a beauteous day, and make me travel forth without my cloak, to let base clouds o'ertake me in my way, hiding thy bravery in their rotten smoke? 'Tis not enough that through the cloud thou break to dry the rain on my storm-beaten face, for no man well of such a salve can speak that heals the wound and cures not the disgrace. Nor can thy shame give physic to my grief, though thou repent, yet I still have the loss. The offender's sorrow lends but weak relief to him that bears the strong offense's cross. Ah, but those tears are pearl which thy love sheds, and they are rich and ransom all ill deeds. Thank you. Our next sonnet will be Sonnet 22, read by GoddessNerd. Goddess, if you will come on up to the stage.
Hello, everyone. I don't normally come up and do this stuff, actually. I prefer to not do this at all, but I want to read for a friend of mine who came shortly after the many people came to Appalachia. A friend from Vault 22. That friend of mine came with a story of a vault patched in greenery, but also patched in death. A genetically mutated virus that instantly took every dweller's life by infecting their bodies and killing them slowly, and then reanimating their corpses to the point of where they themselves were no longer human. Here is Sonnet 22 for your listening. My glass shall not persuade me I am old, so long as youth and vow are of one date. But when in these times furrows I behold, the look I death my days should expiate. For all that beauty that dove cover thee is but that the seemingly raiment of my heart, which in thy breast doth live, and thine in me. How can I be elder than thou art? Oh, therefore, love, be of thyself so wary. As I do not for myself, but for thee will, bearing thy heart, which I shall keep so chary. As tender nurse her babe from faring ill, presume not thy heart when mine is slain. Thou gave of me thine not to give back again. Sonnet 22.
Thank you so much for that incredible reading of Sonnet 22. You can really see how valuable it is to have the same sonnet read by different people, how we all interpret and deliver it. On that note, our next two readers will be reading Sonnet 76, our home vault and sonnet here in Appalachia. The first Sonnet 76 reader will be Pombe. Come on up, Pombe.
Thank you. I chose to read Sonnet 76 because Vault 76 is a common unifier for all of us. It brings us all together and creates community between us. Whether you're Brotherhood of Steel or Responder or whatever you are, Raider, it doesn't matter. In the end, we all come from the same place. And in the end, we all have that in common. So we can still connect to one another, even if our goals change over time. So here's my reading of Sonnet 76. Why is my verse so barren of new pride, so far from variation or quick change? Why, with the time, do I not glance aside to newfound methods, to compound strange? Why write I still all one, ever the same, and keep invention in a noted weed, that every word doth almost tell my name, showing their birth and where they did proceed? Oh no, sweet love, I always write of you, and you and love are still my argument. So all my best is dressing old words new, spending again what is already spent. For as the sun is daily new and old, so is my love still telling what is told. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you, Pombe, for that sweet reading and the example you give us. Honestly, you truly help care for many of our hearts here in the Wasteland. I'm sorry the weather is not participating. Luckily, we do have a glass roof, which of course keeps out the elements for all of our readers. Now let's hear another version of Sonnet 76. Please come up to the stage, CaptainMal. I'd love to hear your reading of this sonnet.
Hi, everybody. Whoops, let me get that gun out of there. That's what I'm talking about. You don't think I'd be the type of person to be, reading some poetry. But, let me put that down. Sorry about that. Gee, that was rude. But, after a while, you got some books and a lot of time to think about it. I wanted to read Sonnet 76 because even though I know what it's supposed to be about, it makes me sad thinking about what we were supposed to be. We were supposed to start over, right? Everybody is new America, rebuild, best and the brightest, and we're still dodging nukes on a daily basis. We don't learn anything. Nothing ever changes. Or never changes, I guess. So I've heard. And with that being said, I want to just say, Barb, you are still my argument. So, Sonnet 76. Why is my birth so barren of new pride, so far from variation or quick change? Why, with the time, do I not glance aside to newfound methods and to compound strange? Why write I still all one, ever the same, and keep invention in a noted weed, that every word doth almost tell my name, showing their birth and where they did proceed? Oh no, sweet love, I always write of you, and you and love are still my argument. So all my best is dressing old words new, spending again was already spent. For as the sun is daily new and old, so is my love still telling what is told. Sonnet 76. Thank y'all. Sorry about that.
Nothing to be sorry about at all, Mal. That was beautiful. 76 really is a perfect connection between Shakespeare and our experiences here in the Wasteland. The more you hear it, the more you understand how it speaks to us through time. Let me check really quick. Yes, our last sonnet here is Sonnet 111. Sonnet 111 is a two-part sonnet. So when we move to the Atomic Theater following, we will hear Sonnet 112 next. Please take the time to consider them together. Come on up, ReticentDuet. You may read your sonnet.
Sonnet 111 is about fortune, cruel fortune, and how we react to fortune's whims. What do we do? How can we overcome the situation that we find ourselves in? And there are a lot of parallels between Sonnet 111 and Vault 111, the cryogenic experiment vault in the Commonwealth. When the sole survivor emerges, they find themselves in what seems like an impossible, untenable situation. Their family dead or missing, the world destroyed, bands of monsters, human and otherwise, roaming through what remains of their home. But the sole survivor didn't wilt. The sole survivor fought. What we learn as we watch the sole survivor's journey is that there are a lot of ways that you can do that. Sonnet 111 talks about one. The solution isn't always something. Sometimes the solution is someone. This is Sonnet 111. Oh, for my sake do you with fortune chide, the guilty goddess of my harmful deeds, that did not better for my life provide than public means which public manners breeds. Thence comes it that my name receives a brand, and almost thence my nature is subdued to what it works in like the dyer's hand. Pity me, then, and wish I were renewed, whilst, like a willing patient, I will drink potions of Isel gainst my strong infection. No bitterness that I will bitter think, nor double penance to correct correction. Pity me, then, dear friend, and I assure ye, even that your pity is enough to cure me. Thank you.
Lovely, just lovely, thank you. But what would that sonnet be without its partner? We're going to switch the transmission over to the Atomic Theater where VitriolPlays will be reading. Please do allow a moment for your Pip-Boys to adjust. It'll take just a moment.
Vault 112 was one of the last vaults to be created. It housed a utopia in Tranquility Lane, while each member was trapped inside the Visitron loungers. This piece is for Dr. Braun, the head of the project, who tortured each one of his dwellers, killing them virtually and resurrecting them again and again. This sonnet will be read from the perspective of a vault dweller who both loves and hates Dr. Braun for the lives he forced her to live and forget and leave again and again. Your love and pity doth the impression fill, which vulgar scandal stamped upon my brow. For what care I who calls me well or ill? So your O-green my bad, my good allow. You are my in all the world, and I must strive to know my shames and praises from your tongue. None else to me nor I alive, that my steeled sense or changes right or wrong. In so profound abysm, I throw all care to others' voices that my adder's sense to critic and to flatterer stopped are. Mark, how with my neglect I do dispense, you are so strongly in my purpose bred, that all the world besides methinks are dead.
Well, thank you kindly, Vitriol and Reticent, for reading Sonnets 111 and 112 so beautifully. Though they are different vaults, you can see how they are connected over time, over space, and in our case, even over systems. Hello everyone, welcome. My name's Hammy. I welcome you to the Atomic Theater. Our stage is no stranger to Shakespeare. Last year, this very stage held a live reading of numerous Shakespearean monologues. The words of Shakespeare and the experiences in the wasteland are so clearly connected, perhaps because Shakespeare's words speak to all of us, regardless of time or context. To kick us off, I shall be reading Sonnet 13, representing the Vault of the Same Number. The vault that started it all. I'll be reading from the perspective of the Overseer, a traditional man who was so afraid the youth might be inspired to leave that he banished the very hero that gave the vault salvation. Oh, that you were yourself. But love, you are no longer yours than you yourself who live here. Against this coming end you should prepare, and your sweet semblance to some other give. So should that beauty which you hold in lease find no determination. Then you were yourself again after yourself's decease, when your sweet issue your sweet form should bear. Who lets so fair a house fall to decay, which husbandry in honor might uphold against the stormy gusts of winter's day and barren rage of death's eternal cold? Oh, none but unthrifts. Dear my love, you know you had a father. Let your son say so. And now, to kick us off for our next sonnet is Sonnet 22, read by RadiationGroove. Why don't you come on out and introduce yourself?
Hello. Tucked into the mountains of the Mojave Desert, Vault 22 was staffed with the intent to solve world hunger by improving crop production in any way possible. After the war, we did everything we could to become entirely self-sufficient, including treating pests with a fungus that spread like wildfire. That fungus spread to us, the residents of Vault 22, and after those we loved died from infection, they turned to aggressive spore carriers. Our numbers dwindled. Nearly 20 years after the war, 118 souls abandoned Vault 22 for the hazards of the desert, and in doing so, abandoned those we loved to waste away at the mercy of the fungus. And that's what Sonnet 22 is about. Loss and the connection between two hearts as time travels onward. My glass shall not persuade me I am old, so long as youth and thou are of one date. But when in these time furrows I behold, then look I death my death should expiate. For all that beauty that doth cover thee is but the seemly raiment of my heart, in which thy breast doth live as thine in me. How can I then be elder than thou art? Oh, therefore, love, be of thyself so wary, as I, not for myself, but for thee will. Bearing thy heart, which I will keep so chary, as tender nurse her babe from faring ill. Presume not on thy heart when mine is slain. Thou gavest me thine not to give back again.
Well, thank you so much, RadiationGroove, for that lovely reading. Now, I'm sure eagle-eyed viewers will notice that's the third reading of Sonnet 22, and I hope you all took note how different the same words can truly be. It is an attestation to Shakespeare's power and to our readers here today. Our next sonnet will be Sonnet 70, read by TehLoen. Come on down.
Greetings. Mine is about Vault 70, that of which the Mormon community resided within. Established in 2062, and during that time, 6 months after, shall we say, El Natural happened to the jumpsuits, laid bare. But I digress. Me and mine, when it went into Vault 70, 123 years later, we come to find out that mine was not to be the first opened, but hers, and several others, as they were exposed to radiation, and were, how should I say, ghoulified, as they thought that ghouls were of a hideous nature, yet some had retained their intelligence and their intellect, as well as their emotional states. This is a telling of my beloved. Sonnet 70. Thou that art blamed shall not be thy defect, for slanderous mark is ever yet the fair. The ornament of beauty is suspect, a crow that flies in heaven's sweetest air. So thou be good, slander doth but approve. Thy worth the greater, being wooed of time. The canker vice, the sweetest buds, doth love, and thou presentest pure, unstained prime. Thou hast by the ambush of younger days either not assailed or victor be charged. Yet this thy praise cannot be so, thy praise, to tie up envy evermore enlarged. If some suspect of ill masked not thy show, then thou alone kingdoms of hearts shalt owe. I thank thee, one and all.
A fantastic reading. Thank you kindly. Really well done. Next sonnet is 77 with Pandora. Come on up to the stage and read your sonnet.
Hello. So, I once met a vault dweller who, well, he wasn't entirely right after his experience, but the tales that he told stuck with me, and I thought that I would choose my sonnet based on his experiences. So my reading is in memory of the king and in honor of Grandma and Reverend Hound, those who were left behind. This is Sonnet 77, based on Vault 77, sometimes known as One Man in a Crate of Puppets. Thy glass will show thee how thy beauties wear, thy dial how thy precious minutes waste. The vacant leaves thy mind's imprint will bear, and of this book, this learning, mayst thou taste. The wrinkles which thy glass will truly show, of mouthed graves, will give thee memory. Thou by thy dial's shady stealth mayst know time's thievish progress to eternity. Look what thy memory cannot contain. Commit to these waste blanks, and thou shalt find those children nursed, delivered from thy brain, to take a new acquaintance of thy mind. These offices, so oft as thou wilt look, shalt profit thee and much enrich thy book.
Thank you so kindly for that wonderful reading. Your voice and presence were made for the stage, and we could really feel it in that sonnet. Our final sonnet here at the Atomic will be Sonnet 121, read by Dawn McCormick. You are welcome to the stage.
Hello. My name is Colleen Kelly. I have survived the Great War in Vault 76 with my parents. However, I do not consider that my home. I learned of White Springs and the great vault that it contained within from my father, who was a great officer in the previous government. I am a general in the new enclave, and we are here to provide order among the chaos that has arisen after the war. But the people don't seem to want what we have to offer. They seem to thrive in the chaos. They seem to want the disorder and the fracture of their societies. If they do not wish a a permanent government that's going to provide for them what we have to offer, then I guess we will have to just enforce it upon them rather than give it to them willingly. Therefore, I am going to read Sonnet 121, for this speaks to how we as the Enclave who are generous and giving feel that we are portrayed by the vast majority of the Wasteland. 'Tis better to be vile than vile esteemed, when not to be receives reproach of being, and the just pleasure lost, which is so deemed, not by our feeling, but by others' seeing. For why should others' false adulterate eyes give salutation to my sportive blood, or on my frailties fly our frailer spine, which in their wills count bad what I think good? No, I am that I am, and they that level at my abuses reckon up their own. I may be straight, they themselves be bubble. Be their rank thoughts, my deeds must not be shown, unless this general evil they maintain. All men are bad, and in their badness reign. Thank you.
Thank you kindly for closing our sonnets off with such an excellent reading and interpretation of Sonnet 121. Very well done, and as a patron of the arts, I will say, excellent reading, but as a member of the Free States, well, I will say, see you on the battlefield. Well, that concludes our sonnets here at the Atomic Theater. So I'll be sending our Pip-Boy audiences back to the Vaults Theater with the Wasteland Theatre Company's director to close the evening off. Thank you, everyone, for attending, and over to you at the Vaults Theater.
As our friend Dutch Walker once said, every vault has its sonnet. I want to thank all our sonnet readers who stepped up bravely to try something new here in the Wasteland. It takes a great courage to speak before an audience, and even more so when using Shakespeare's words. I want to thank Jessica Starr and HamletSandwich for all their work designing and building their stages and serving as our hosts. I want to thank the United Wastelanders Network for streaming today. If you haven't added them to your Pip-Boy, please do so. They have quality productions and profile Wastelanders, camps, and more. I want to thank the Folger Shakespeare Library, which has long been destroyed by the bombs in the capital Wasteland, but preserving the works of Shakespeare for the future. And the Fallout wiki page, of course, for all the background information on the vaults. I want to finally thank the Fallout 50 responders for providing security, and Dutch Walker of Watoga Cinema in particular for helping coordinate, film, and support our entire production. Without Dutch, the Wasteland Theatre Company simply couldn't put on our theatrical productions and bring the arts back to Appalachia. Dutch Walker is a true patron of the arts and a true gentleman. Thanks to all of you who joined us in our live theaters or via Pip-Boy, including, I might say, the Raiders. The performance arts do not live without an audience. So you, the audience, are everything. With that, we close our show. I want to thank you, everyone, for coming out. Thank you.
Farewell, thou art too dear for my possessing, and like enough thou know'st thy estimate. The charter of thy worth gives thee releasing. My bonds in thee are all determinate. For how do I hold thee, but by thy granting? And for that riches where is my deserving? The cause of this fair gift in me is wanting, and so my patent back again is swerving. Thyself thou gavest thy own worth, then not knowing, or me, to whom thou givest else, mistaking. So thy great gift upon misprison growing, comes home again, on better judgment making. Thus have I had thee as a dream doth flatter, in sleep a king, but waking no much matter. Okay. Sonnet 87. Not so bad. Dutch Walker. Signing off.
This is a reminder that auditions for A Midsummer Night's Dream are after school next week, Wednesday. You have until Tuesday to sign up with Mr. Miller.